The crowbar hit the doorframe so hard I felt it in my chest. 1 a.m. Middle of nowhere. Nothing but black sky and wind that cut through my coat like it wasn't even there. I was standing on my own porch, or what used to be mine, pounding on wood that shouldn't have been locked against me. Daniel. My voice cracked, raw from screaming his name into the dark. Daniel, open this door. The farmhouse sat there like it was holding its breath. Every window black except one upstairs where a shadow moved and disappeared. I hit the door again, harder, my knuckles going numb. The cold had teeth that night. February cold. The kind that makes you wonder if morning will ever come. Something crashed inside. Glass, maybe. Then shouting, muffled, desperate, wrong. My son's voice. I tried the handle again. Locked. Of course it was locked. I hadn't lived there in 3 weeks, but some part of me still expected the door to open like it always had. Like home was supposed to. Daniel. I screamed at this time, slamming both palms against the wood. I know you're in there. Let me in. The lock clicked. The door swung open slow, and there she was. Riley. My son's wife. Her hair was wild, eyes wide and shining in the porch light I'd installed myself 5 years ago. She was breathing hard, chest heaving like she'd been running. Or fighting. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. And in her right hand, hanging loose at her side like it belonged there, was a crowbar. Eleanor. She said my name like it tasted bad. Like I was the problem. You shouldn't be here. I looked past her, into the house. The living room was a mess, furniture pushed around. One of Walter's old lamps shattered on the floor. And there, slumped against the wall by the stairs, was Daniel. My boy. His face was pale, eyes unfocused, blood running from somewhere above his eyebrow. What did you do? The words came out quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that comes right before something breaks. Riley shifted her weight, and the crowbar moved with her. Not threatening. Not yet. Just there. Present. Possible. He fell, she said. Flat. Emotionless. Like she was reading from a script she'd practiced. You need to leave. Like hell I will. I took a step forward, and she took a step back, but her grip on that crowbar tightened. I could see her knuckles going white even in the bad light. Daniel tried to stand, slipped, caught himself. His mouth moved, but no sound came out. He was looking at me like he was trying to tell me something. Like he was trying to warn me. Mom, his voice was thick wrong. Mom, just go. Please. That's when Riley smiled. Small. Cold. The kind of smile that lives in nightmares. She leaned in close enough that I could smell the wine on her breath, the perfume I'd watched her steal from my dresser 2 months ago. Her voice dropped to a whisper, but every word landed like a punch. You shouldn't have come back. The crowbar moved. Fast. Faster than I thought possible. Everything went black. Would you have turned back that night? Tell me in the comments below. Before the crowbar, before Riley, before everything turned to ash, there was just us. Ashridge Falls. Population 2,400 on a good Sunday, when church let out. The kind of town where everybody knows your business before you do, where gossip travels faster than the morning paper, and where a secret dies the moment it's born. I loved it anyway. Met Walter at the county fair when I was 19. He was 22, working his uncle's booth, selling honey and jam. Had this smile that made you forget your own name. Tweetman. Strong hands. The kind who fix things instead of talking about fixing them. We got married that fall in the white church on Maple Street. Honeymoon was 3 days at a cabin by the lake. Didn't need more than that. Didn't want more than that. The farmhouse came 2 years later. Small. 2 bedrooms. Needed work. Walter said he'd make it perfect, and he did. Board by board. Nail by nail. Built it with his own hands while I painted the shutters blue and planted roses along the fence. Then came Daniel. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Born on a Tuesday morning in March, while the world was waking up green and new. I held him in the hospital room and made him a promise nobody else heard. I told him I'd protect him from every hard thing, every cruel word, every broken heart, every shadow that came looking. I meant it too. We were happy. Simple happy. The kind that doesn't make good stories because nothing bad happens. Walter worked construction. I worked part-time at the library. Daniel grew up climbing trees and catching fireflies and learning how to be good. Sundays we'd sit on the porch after dinner, watching the sky turn purple. Walter would hold my hand without saying anything.
Didn't need to.
Some things don't require words. 23 years of that. 23 years of ordinary and beautiful and enough. Then one winter night, Walter started coughing. Just a cough. Nothing serious. Happens to everybody, right?
Cold season.
Flu going around. I made him soup. Gave him medicine. Told him to rest. But the cough didn't stop. By the next spring, I was a widow, and Daniel came home with a stranger. Ever loved someone so much you didn't see the storm coming? Hit like if you understand. Her name was Riley, and she was beautiful in that sharp way that makes you feel dull just standing next to her. Daniel brought her home on a Saturday in April. The dogwoods were blooming. Everything smelled like hope and new beginnings, and I was still wearing Walter's flannel shirts because they smelled like sawdust and home. Mom, this is Riley. Daniel's voice had that nervous edge. Excited.
Proud.
Terrified. Riley, this is my mom, Eleanor. She shook my hand with a grip that lasted half a second, too short. Smiled with her mouth, but not her eyes. Mrs. Hayes. Daniel's told me so much about you. Lies sound smoother when they're wrapped in politeness. I made dinner that night. Pot roast. Walter's favorite. Daniel's favorite. The recipe his grandmother taught me 30 years ago. Riley picked at it like I'd served her gas station leftovers. It's very traditional, she said, pushing a carrot around her plate. Traditional. Like it was a disease. She asked questions about the house. Specific questions. How many acres? Property value. When the roof was last replaced. Like she was doing inventory instead of getting to know me. Her eyes moved over everything. The photos on the walls, the furniture Walter built, the china cabinet with my mother's dishes, and I swear I could see her calculating worth. Daniel watched her like she might disappear if he looked away. Something in him had changed. My boy who used to laugh too loud and hug too tight was sitting at his own table like a guest. Careful. Quiet. Like he was afraid of saying the wrong thing. Mom's thinking about selling, Daniel said suddenly. Just threw it out there like it was nothing. Downsizing. Right, Mom? I wasn't thinking about selling. Hadn't said a word about it. This was my home. Walter's home. The place where we raised our son and buried our dreams and built our life. I never said that. Riley's smile got sharper.
Oh.
I must have misunderstood. She looked at Daniel, held his gaze just long enough to make him shift in his seat. Daniel, didn't you tell me? We can talk about it later, he said quickly. Too quickly. They got married 6 weeks later. City Hall. No ceremony. No family. Just a phone call telling me it was done. We wanted something simple, Daniel explained when they came back. Riley doesn't really do the whole traditional thing. Traditional. That word again. Like everything I'd built, everything I'd given him was somehow wrong. Outdated. In the way. Riley moved into the farmhouse the next day. Brought 12 suitcases and started rearranging furniture before dinner. This will be so much better in the corner, she said, pushing Walter's reading chair toward the wall. And we should probably update these curtains. Very country.
Country.
Traditional. Old-fashioned. She never said ugly, but I heard it anyway. 2 months later, she suggested I move into the spare room. Daniel's old bedroom. The one with the twin bed and the walls I'd painted blue when he was 7. Just temporarily, Riley said, all sweetness and light. Until we figure out the best arrangement. This house is really only designed for one family, you know? Daniel nodded along. Didn't meet my eyes. Just nodded. And just like that, I was a guest in my own home. Would you have let her stay? Or would you have drawn the line sooner? Let's talk in the comments. It started with little things. Keys going missing. My reading glasses disappearing from the table where I always left them. The coffee I made in the morning already gone by the time I came downstairs. Mom, you're getting forgetful, Daniel said gently, like I was a child who needed explaining to. It happens. I was 58, not 90, not senile, not confused. But Riley would stand there with this concerned look, head tilted just right, voice dripping sympathy. Eleanor, maybe we should look into some memory exercises. I read this article. I didn't need articles. I needed my things to stop vanishing. Then it was bigger things. The checkbook. My bank statements. The spare key to the safe where Walter kept his important papers. I'm just helping organize, Riley said when I asked. Smiled that smile. The house was such a mess. You understand.
I didn't understand.
My house had never been a mess. But suddenly, she was handling the bills, managing the accounts, making decisions about money that wasn't hers. It's easier this way, Daniel explained. Riley's really good with finances. She used to work in banking. Used to. Past tense. I never did find out where she actually worked, or why she stopped, or what she did with all those hours Daniel was at the construction company. One Tuesday, I went to the bank to check my savings. The account Walter and I had built over 30 years. Careful money, retirement money, emergency money. It was empty. Not low, not reduced. Empty. $0.17. The teller looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Hayes, there were several large withdrawals over the past few months. All authorized with your signature. My signature. Except I never signed anything. Never authorized anything. Never even looked at a withdrawal slip. I drove home shaking so hard I had to pull over twice. Riley was in the kitchen when I got back, making herself tea with the good china. My mother's good china that was supposed to be saved for special occasions. We need to talk about my savings account. She didn't even look up. Just kept stirring honey into her cup. What about it? It's empty. Oh. She took a sip. Slow. Deliberate.
That.
Where's my money, Riley?
Now she looked at me.
Really looked at me. And her face was calm. Completely calm. Like we were discussing the weather instead of 30 years of my life disappearing. There were expenses. The roof. The furnace. Daniel's truck needed work. Life is expensive, Eleanor. That wasn't your money. She set down her cup, leaned back against the counter, crossed her arms. Technically, she said slowly, like she was explaining something to someone very stupid. Once Daniel married me, what's his became ours. Community property. And since you signed those accounts over to him last year, I never signed anything over. Her smile was ice. Pure ice. You won't need it for long, Eleanor. The words hung there.
Heavy.
Threatening. Final. If someone said that to you, would you stay silent or fight back? Tell me below. Christmas Eve. The farmhouse smelled like pine and cinnamon. Snow falling outside like something from a card. I spent all day cooking.
Turkey.
Stuffing. Sweet potatoes with marshmallows on top. Green bean casserole. Apple pie from Walter's mother's recipe. Set the table with my mother's china. The good stuff. The pieces that survived the Depression and 3 generations, and every Christmas since I was born. Daniel used to love Christmas. Used to wake me up at 5 a.m. when he was little. Couldn't wait to see what Santa brought. We'd have hot chocolate and open presents slow, making it last. Then Walter would read the Christmas story from the old Bible his grandfather gave him. Simple.
Perfect. Ours.
That evening, Riley came downstairs in a black dress that probably cost more than my car. Diamonds in her ears, real ones, I think. Wondered where those came from. Oh, Eleanor, she said, looking at the table. Didn't Daniel tell you?
Tell me what?
We're having people over. Friends from the city. I sent out invitations last week. I'd cooked for 3. She'd invited 20. They arrived at 7.
Loud. Drunk already.
Trailing snow and expensive perfume through the house. Riley met them at the door like a queen welcoming subjects, taking coats, pouring wine, laughing that high fake laugh she used around strangers. Nobody introduced me. I was just there. Part of the furniture. Part of the old, traditional, country decor. I watched them eat the food I made, use the china I inherited, sit in the chairs Walter built. And Riley stood at the head of the table, my table, holding up one of my mother's plates like it was a joke. "Look at these," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Genuine Depression-era glass. Probably older than the house. Isn't that adorable?" Adorable. Like my history was a costume party. Someone laughed. Called them relics. Another person asked if they were safe to eat off. Riley just smiled and said, "Well, they've survived this long." The plates clinked together as people passed them around.
Rough.
Careless. Like they were disposable. I stood in the doorway watching my life get mocked by strangers in my own home, and something inside me just stopped. Not broke.
Stopped.
Went quiet and cold and final. I walked upstairs while they were still eating. Packed a bag. Not everything. Just enough. Clothes. Photos. Walter's pocket watch. The things that mattered. Daniel was coming out of the bathroom when I came back down with my suitcase. He saw the bag. Saw my face. Didn't say a word.
Just stood there.
Watching. As I walked past him. Down the stairs. Through the living room where his wife's friends were drinking my wine and laughing at my expense. I stopped at the door. Turned around. Looked right at him. He opened his mouth.
Closed it.
Did nothing. Riley appeared at his shoulder. Wrapped her arm around his waist. Pulled him close.
And smiled at me.
I left without saying goodbye. Got in my car. Drove to a motel on the highway where the clerk didn't ask questions and the room smelled like bleach and broken promises. Sat on that hard bed for 3 hours, staring at the wall. If they wanted silence, I'd give them silence that echoed. Have you ever walked away without saying a word? Double tap if you felt that peace. 3 weeks at that motel. 3 weeks of stale coffee and thin walls, and trying to figure out who I was without the farmhouse. Without Daniel. Without the life I'd built. Then I remembered the pocket watch. Walter's grandfather's watch. Gold.
Engraved.
The one thing his family managed to keep through the Depression. Walter wore it every Sunday to church, wound it every morning with his coffee. When he died, I put it in the china cabinet behind the good plates because I couldn't bear to look at it every day. I'd grabbed photos when I left.
Clothes.
My mother's wedding ring. But not the watch. It was 1 a.m. when I pulled into the driveway. February cold cutting through everything. The farmhouse was dark except for one window upstairs. Daniel's old room. My old room. Whatever it was now. My hands were shaking as I got out of the car. Not from cold. From something else. Something that felt like anger and fear having a fist fight in my chest. I was just going to knock. Get the watch.
Leave.
That was the plan. Then I heard the shouting. Muffled.
Desperate.
Coming from inside. Daniel's voice raised in a way I'd never heard before.
Hi. Panicked. Wrong.
Something crashed. Glass breaking. A thud like furniture hitting the floor. I ran to the door. Pounded it with both fists. Daniel. Daniel. Open up. Silence. Then footsteps. Heavy. Slow. The porch light flicked on, and the lock clicked. Riley stood there breathing hard, hair wild, mascara smudged under her eyes like she'd been crying. Or fighting. Her silk blouse was torn at the shoulder. And in her right hand, casual as holding a TV remote, was a crowbar. Eleanor. Her voice was flat.
Dead.
You shouldn't be here. I pushed past her. Had to see. Had to know. The living room was destroyed. Walter's lamp shattered. The coffee table overturned. Papers everywhere, documents, folders, envelopes ripped open and scattered like snow. And Daniel, my son, slumped against the wall by the stairs, blood running down his face from a cut above his eye. His shirt was ripped. His hands were shaking. What did you do? I whispered. Riley moved behind me. I could feel her there. Feel that crowbar. He fell, she said. Like she'd practiced it. Like she'd been waiting to use that line. Got clumsy. You know how he is. Daniel tried to stand.
Failed.
His eyes met mine, and I saw it.
Fear.
Real fear. The kind kids have when they realize the monster under the bed is real. Mom, his voice cracked. Mom, just go.
Please.
Just go. I'm not leaving you. Riley laughed. Actually laughed. Sharp and bitter and wrong. Always the hero, aren't you, Eleanor? Always saving him. Always protecting him. She moved closer. The crowbar tapped against her leg. You know what Daniel told me when we first met? He said his biggest problem was you. Too protective. Too involved. Too much. The words hit harder than the crowbar could have. That's not true. I looked at Daniel. Tell her that's not true. He didn't say anything. Just looked away. Riley leaned in close. Close enough I could smell wine and rage and something chemical I couldn't name. Her voice dropped to a whisper meant just for me. You shouldn't have come back. The crowbar moved fast. Up and around and coming down hard. I screamed.
Ducked.
Felt the air move past my head. Everything went black. Would you have gone back for that watch? Let me know in the comments. Red and blue lights. Spinning. Flashing. Turning the white farmhouse into something from a nightmare. I was sitting in the back of an ambulance with a blanket around my shoulders and a paramedic checking my pupils with a flashlight. My head was pounding. Everything felt fuzzy and sharp at the same time. Ma'am, can you tell me your name? Eleanor. Eleanor Hayes. Do you know what happened?
Did I?
The crowbar. Riley. Daniel on the floor. Everything after that was fragments. Sirens.
Shouting.
Someone pulling me outside. A sheriff's deputy walked past with Riley in handcuffs. She was crying now.
Loud.
Dramatic. Mascara running down her face like black rivers. It's not what it looks like, she screamed. She attacked me. She's crazy. She's been harassing us for weeks.
Lies.
All lies. But she sold them well. Daniel was on a stretcher being loaded into another ambulance. Conscious now.
Aware.
A bandage on his head, where the blood had been. He saw me. Our eyes met across the chaos.
Mom, he said.
Quiet. Broken.
Mom, I'm sorry.
The paramedic closed the ambulance doors before I could respond. More deputies came out of the house carrying boxes. Evidence. Documents. Files. One of them had a laptop. Another had stacks of papers bundled in clear bags. A detective approached me. Older woman. Kind eyes. Tired face. Mrs. Hayes, I'm Detective Morrison. We need to ask you some questions, but first, are you hurt? I don't think so. My head. The paramedic will check you out, but I need you to know something. She crouched down so we were eye level. Your son is safe, and Riley Tanner is under arrest. Tanner, not Hayes. She never even took his name. What happened in there? Detective Morrison glanced back at the house. We're still piecing it together, but it looks like Ms. Tanner has been running a sophisticated fraud operation. Fake business loans in your son's name. Credit cards he never applied for. She drained his business accounts, forged documents, even took out a second mortgage on this property. The world tilted. Or maybe that was my head. Daniel discovered it tonight. Confronted her. Things got violent. That's when you arrived. All that money. My savings. Daniel's business. The house. Everything. How much? Over $300,000. Maybe more. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. 300,000.
Gone.
Stolen. By the woman my son brought home like she was some kind of prize. They put Riley in the back of a patrol car. She was still crying. Still screaming. Still playing the victim even with handcuffs on. Daniel was at the hospital getting stitches when I finally got there. Sitting on an exam table in a paper gown. Looking like the boy who used to cry when he scraped his knees. I stood in the doorway.
Didn't know what to say.
Didn't know if I had the right to say anything. He looked up.
Saw me.
Mom. His voice broke. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. For the first time, I saw my son, not as my boy, but as a man broken by the woman he chose. Would you forgive him? Or would you walk away? Comment your thoughts. I left Ashridge Falls 2 weeks later. Didn't tell Daniel. Didn't make a big announcement. Just packed what little I had and drove north to Lake Monroe where the water was cold and clean and nobody knew my story. Found a cottage for rent.
Small.
1 bedroom. Porch facing the water. The landlord was an old woman who asked no questions and accepted cash. Fresh start, she asked when I signed the lease. Something like that. Daniel called every day at first. Left voicemails I didn't listen to. Sent texts I didn't read. Showed up at the motel once before I'd moved, but I was already gone. I wasn't punishing him. That's what people don't understand. I was choosing peace over bitterness. Silence over explaining. Distance over drowning. Some bridges you don't burn. You just stop crossing them. The cottage had a garden.
Wild.
Overgrown. Full of weeds and possibility. I spent my first month there digging. Pulling roots. Turning soil. Making something new from something abandoned. Planted lavender in April. Rows and rows of it. Purple and silver and smelling like memory and healing, and everything Walter used to say about starting over. Things grow back, he told me once after a storm destroyed our first garden. Stronger than before. Roots go deeper when they have to fight. I thought about that a lot. About roots. About fighting. About what it means to survive something and come out different on the other side. Daniel's lawyer called in May. The charges against Riley were stacking up.
Fraud. Theft. Forgery.
Assault. She'd done this before. Other towns. Other men. Other families destroyed. Your son wants to testify, the lawyer said. He wants to make sure she never does this again.
Good.
That was good. Maybe he was learning. Maybe broken was just the first step toward something stronger. The cottage became home slow. 1 day at a time. 1 morning coffee on the porch. 1 sunset over the water. 1 night sleeping through without nightmares. Then 1 morning in June, I found something on my porch. A photo. Recent. Daniel and 2 kids. Little girl, maybe 3. Little boy, maybe 5. Grandchildren I didn't know existed. No note.
No explanation.
Just the photo propped against my door like a question nobody was brave enough to ask out loud. I picked it up. Looked at their faces. His eyes. Walter's smile. My nose. Family I'd never met. Life I wasn't part of. Future I'd walked away from. I stood there holding that photo. For 20 minutes. The sun came up. The lake turned gold. Birds started singing. Then I went inside and closed the door. I didn't open the door. Some silences are sacred. Sometimes peace costs distance. Would you have opened the door? People think strength looks like standing your ground, fighting back, refusing to bend. But I learned something in that cottage by the lake. Something the years with Riley taught me even when I didn't want the lesson. Real strength is knowing when to walk away, when to stop explaining, when to let people make their own mistakes and carry their own consequences. I spent 30 years protecting Daniel from pain, from hard truths, from anything that might hurt him. And what did that give him? A wife who stole everything and a mother he couldn't be honest with because he was too busy being perfect. You can't protect people into strength. You can only protect them into weakness. Riley didn't break me. She revealed what was already cracking. A life built on being needed, on being the hero, on holding together things that wanted to fall apart. Walter used to say I loved too hard. Made myself small so Daniel could feel big. Carried burdens that weren't mine because I was afraid of what would happen if I put them down. Let him fall sometimes, Elle. Walter told me once when Daniel was 15 and failing algebra. He'll learn to catch himself. But I didn't listen. I hired a tutor. Did half his homework. Made sure he passed. Taught him that someone would always catch him. Always fix it. Always save him. Until the day I couldn't. I'm talking to you now. Whoever's listening. Whoever's watching this and seeing themselves in my story. Don't mistake silence for peace. Speak when it matters. Set boundaries before walls become prisons. Love people enough to let them face their own storms. Because the ones who break you, they always think you'll stay broken. They count on it. Build their kingdoms on your compliance. They forget something important though. Quiet women carry storms in their bones. We learn young how to smile through damage, how to clean up messes we didn't make, how to apologize for taking up space. But there's a difference between quiet and weak, between patient and defeated, between choosing peace and accepting abuse. Some of us just take longer to remember. We spend years bending, years accommodating, years wondering if we're the problem, until one night, one moment, one final thing that makes everything clear. And when we rise, we don't scream, we don't rage, we don't burn it all down. We just stop participating in our own destruction. Because the ones who break you always think you'll stay broken, until the night you remind them what your voice can do. Share this story if you believe karma always finds its way. Riley got 8 years. Could have been more, but she took a plea deal. Testified against some associates who'd helped her set up shell companies and fake identities. Daniel paid back what he could. Sold the farmhouse. Moved to a smaller place closer to the city where his kids could walk to school and he could start over without ghosts in every room. He writes letters now. Sends them to my P.O. box at the post office in town. I don't always read them. Sometimes I do. Depends on the day. Depends on whether I have the energy for his guilt. The last one said he was in therapy, learning about codependency, boundaries, how to spot manipulation. All the things I couldn't teach him because I was too busy being the lesson. I understand now why you left, he wrote. I understand you had to save yourself because I couldn't. Maybe he does understand. Maybe time and distance and therapy gave him clarity I couldn't. Or maybe he's just saying what he thinks I want to hear. Either way, I'm okay. That's the thing nobody tells you about walking away. Eventually, you stop looking back to see if they're following. Stop checking your phone to see if they called. Stop wondering if you made the right choice. You just live. I walk by the lake most mornings. Early, when the mist is still rising and the water is glass. I bring Walter's pocket watch. The one I went back for that night. The one that nearly got me killed. Got it fixed at a jeweler in town. Wind's smooth now. Ticks steady. Keeps perfect time. I hold it sometimes and whisper things Walter would have understood. About quiet justice. About truth that reveals itself in patience. About how the hardest person to save is the one who doesn't know they're drowning. 30 minutes. That's how long it took that night. From the moment Riley opened the door with a crowbar to the moment the police arrived. 30 minutes that changed everything. 30 minutes that ended one life and started another. People ask me if I'm angry. If I hate Riley. If I wish things were different. I'm not angry. Anger requires energy I don't waste anymore. Riley's in prison with her own demons. Daniel's rebuilding with his own regrets. And I'm here by the lake with lavender in my garden and peace in my bones. The sound of handcuffs at 1 a.m. wasn't tragedy. It was freedom. Freedom from being needed. From being the answer. From being responsible for grown people's choices. Sometimes the best thing you can do for the people you love is let them fall. Let them fail. Let them find their own way back. And sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is walk away from love that costs you everything. I'm not a victim. Never was.
Victims stay.
Victims make excuses. Victims believe the lie that blood means loyalty and family means sacrifice. I'm a woman who chose herself. Finally. After 58 years of choosing everyone else. That's not selfish. That's survival. And if you're listening to this, really listening, and you see yourself in my story, hear this. You're not trapped. You're not obligated. You're not responsible for fixing what other people break. Walk away. Start small. Start quiet. But start. Because quiet women carry storms in their bones. And when we rise, we don't roar. We restore. If this story touched you, hit subscribe and turn on notifications to join our family of stories where quiet voices roar the loudest. Don't miss the next story. We have more tales of strength, survival, and second chances coming your way. Share your thoughts in the comments below and inspire others who might need to hear this today. Your story matters. Your voice matters. And sometimes your silence matters most.